and many of the beloved Angels Landing regulars, and it's wonderful to see everybody virtually. Better to gather like this than not gather at all. So thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. This is a little challenging for me because at this point I really like to be able to see everybody and touch base and feel where everybody's at. So I'm just going to kind of tap in here. I've already opened my medicine bundle and opened the circle for us. For those of you that haven't participated in one of our services yet, as a medicine woman, I always have a medicine bundle, and that comes with me to every time I speak. And we open that to bring out the medicine that's needed that day for everybody. And it's a little bit of show and tell sometimes. And today I opened that before we started so that I could kind of bless the whole space and put a protection around the sacred circle that we're having virtually today. So that part's already done for us. And I've called in the directions, the guides of the four directions, the divine love from above, Mother Earth's energy. And I'm calling in now all the guides and guardians that need to be here with us for our highest good today, as well as all the wisdom and knowledge that go back into my bloodlines of teachers to call in their wisdom, to help me hollow my bones and be here to channel and speak for the benefit of all that are tuned in. So thank you. Our topic today is living with uncertainty. I had the privilege of spending a lot of time on the phone with Melinda this week and kind of taking everybody's temperature for the people that she's spoken with and talked with through Angels Landing. And it's kind of the common theme everywhere. I think that that was a really good topic to get focused on, living with uncertainty. So we have a lot of challenges that we're faced with right now. And the biggest one being probably uncertainty for many people. The uncertainty shows up because everything that we're dealing with this pandemic is kind of invisible. We can't see it. We don't even know it's there. It can lay dormant and then show up. And then there's a whole lot of other uncertainties that are invisible to us. A lot of that comes up because we can't always know where the end point is, so it's okay to be flexible and try to adapt to change. But one of the hard things is knowing when the end point is. Oftentimes when we're faced with challenge, we kind of have an idea of that. And this end point kind of keeps moving in the calendar, the way that the third dimensional world is looking at everything. Those of us that are in Ohio, we have the benefit and the privilege and blessing of having Dr. Amy Atkin and our Governor DeWine leading the pack, and we're very fortunate that way. But even they, keep leading us to the best of their knowledge where we can go. So it can be really challenging not knowing when the experts aren't even sure where things are going. That leaves us with a lot of uncertainty as well. We have a collective anxiety and fear going on around us. This is another big challenge. So, many people around us have this anxiety buildup, and they don't know where it's coming from, even when they try to control it, but it's just kind of bubbling up. And that induces a lot of fear. And we are all electric, energetic beings. And so even if we're not out there in the world in the public, and those that are probably exposed to even a higher degree of this, we are subject to feeling other people's vibration, other people's energy, if you will. And so we kind of have that feeding coming into us of that anxiety and fear. And that can take our own and escalate it and magnify it. And that can be a huge challenge as well. We have the fear also of what we're being told versus what is true. So I've gotten a lot of feedback from some of my clients about that in my private practice. We can get really fearful and anxious about not understanding what the truth of the matter is, not always knowing what's the source to trust, what do I really believe, and kind of being in limbo about the facts of the situation. And that can be really challenging as well. We're confronted a lot by our weaknesses right now. And that stirs us up because we are kind of in this pressure cooker, physically, shelter in place, but the pressure cooker all around the entire world. And that can really pull up a lot of our shadow side. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But when that comes up, we're faced with our weaknesses more so than our strengths when we're feeling challenged. We can be overwhelmed and we can feel isolated. So some people are experiencing this overwhelming right now, especially parents homeschooling. That can be challenging. We don't know what's happening economically. Many of us don't have any form of income right now, and without an endpoint, that gets really nerve-wracking. We can just be overwhelmed not knowing how we're going to get the supplies we need, our groceries, our toilet paper, things like that. And it's just, too much to try to figure out sometimes, that overwhelming. Or sometimes we also feel like we're isolated, especially those of us who are in the high risk categories, whether that's due to your age or a diagnosis, or if you're the ones that are on the front lines, where you're at a heightened ability to possibly catch this virus, that can be really nerve-wracking. But the people in isolation, that's even a different challenge that's really palpable. If you're missing children in your life, don't worry, because the parents that are overwhelmed will give you your grandchildren probably for the next month once this is all over. So they're going a little crazy. They're going to need your help. And, I predict that in 9 months from now, we're going to have a lot more babies. We're probably going to have a lot more divorce. And we're also going to have a much deeper love and appreciation in the world for what's really important. So hang in there. So many of us are feeling all of this pressure and all of this challenge and all of this uncertainty. And when I go into my own story and try to figure out how this lands on me, this is hard because many of us haven't experienced this level of pressure and fear before. And in reflecting upon, what I can bring my story to this, I thought about when I was in my early 30s and my daughter was being diagnosed with a rare disease, and we spent many years trying to figure out what that rare disease was. So we had this unknown, and the unknown was scary, and we didn't know when that endpoint was going to be, when we would have definition to things. And there was a lot of uncertainty about what this was going to look like. And even after she was 3 and we finally got a diagnosis, many of those fears didn't necessarily resolve themselves. There was a lot of anxiety around not understanding the disease, medical professionals not understanding the disease, having no treatment, no cure, and not really understanding what life was going to look like moving forward, let alone what each day was going to bring that could be different. And so in really recognizing that, it was hard for me, feeling like I did everything I could to try to be a prepared parent, and yet I wasn't prepared for what was happening because it was just unfolding. And this was the unique divine path for me to walk and learn through this journey. And so we find ourselves today thinking to ourselves, many of us that would be a part of this type of circle are thinking, why is this so challenging? I mean, I've been doing a meditation practice. I've been on a spiritual path. I've been, trying to stay awakened and mindful and all of these wonderful things on my path. And so why is this so hard for me? And there's several answers to that. And so I'm going to get into that piece now. So we have all this challenge. Why is it that we can't shift ourselves into a better place with it? We can, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But first, I want to explain to you what's actually happening physiologically Okay, so we're going to talk about the trauma mind, the trauma brain. Okay, when we get triggered by stress, our limbic system, part of our nervous system, our limbic system kicks into gear. That's like danger, danger, Will Robinson, danger. So it kicks into gear like that, and immediately our body releases all sorts of hormones to try to react to that. And when we get a bunch of hormones in our system, we can have all sorts of different emotions that kicks in during any sort of stress intake, whether you're watching the news or you're on social media or you're just creating thoughts in your own mind. This is going to kick in for you. So your brain tries to decipher in that once they get that danger signal, your brain tries to decipher, okay, how am I going to take care of this? And your cortisol levels spikes and your adrenaline spikes, and your body's trying to figure out, do I freeze? Do I fight? Or do I run? So freeze, flight, or run. Or what do we say? Fight, flight, or freeze. That's the one everybody kind of knows. So am I going to fight? Am I going to run and flight? Or am I going to freeze? But this is an unfamiliar scenario for the most part. You know, we've never had a world pandemic before. So it being unfamiliar to us, your brain can't exactly match it up to a paradigm that's already been registered in your memory. And so it kind of spins in a loop of those three things going fight, freeze, fight, which one should I do? Which one should I do? And it's not quite matching up. And while your brain is looping on that, you are experiencing all the emotions that come with it, whether it's frustration, depression, sadness, anxiety, anger. All of these things are looping in your brain, and you're getting these adrenaline rushes that almost could make you feel a little manic, followed by a crash, exhaustion, depression, and your mind kind of stays in that loop. So that's mostly for the layperson what the trauma mind does. And the problem is we're actually in the trauma. So until you get outside of it, it's very difficult to change anything from inside of it. So when we get stuck in that loop, because we're feeding ourselves with the media, with social media, the news, every different article and story that's being shared, when we're feeding our brains with this, and then we start having our own thoughts and we're feeding everybody's opinions in, okay? We're on that hamster wheel, we're on that loop, and it burns us out and it stresses us out, and we continue to feel uncertain and fearful and all of that insecurity and all of that uncertainty and in that trauma mind. So it's important to learn how to manage that loop, and you can. We all can, okay? We can manage that loop. First of all, consider what's a healthy diet of what your mind is processing, okay? What are you giving your mind to process? Are you creating a routine for yourself? Routine is very important to our minds staying in a stable place. Acknowledge your emotions that come up. I'm not saying they're false, they're there. Acknowledge them and do your best to let them go and recognize that this is a stress response. And there isn't anything that you can actually do to control what the stress is, but you can control how you're responding to it and how much of it you're actually letting penetrate. So consider that. And accept yourself. Accept that you're doing the very best you can wherever you're at. This isn't necessarily a place that we're going to find utopia or that we're going to find, some form of joy. It's a hard time to find joy in the overall state of things, but we can find peace. And so that's a place to strive for. And that's a place that you can control because it's your inner environment rather than what's going on outside and around you. So we want to avoid things that lower our vibration. Junk food, which is hard because we're all kind of, if you're an emotional eater, I think I keep seeing like pictures of the grocery stores with like no ice cream on the shelves. I haven't been to the grocery store. I'm fortunate to have other people doing our shopping for us. But yeah, we're all out of ice cream. I said, thank goodness Handles is staying open because that seems rather essential to some people. But avoiding the junk food, avoiding alcohol, avoiding your negative thoughts, sugar, especially refined sugars, excess red meat, arguing, anger, resentment, guilt, all of these things are toxic and lower our vibration, which also lowers your immune system response. And that's the last thing you want right now. Okay, we're gonna stay healthy mind, body, it's all connected. Okay, so indulge in the things that raise your vibration: gratitude, kindness, love, joy, passion. Passion. What are you passionate about? Like I said, joy might not be an easy thing to tap into with the way the world is, but can you find joy in tending to your garden, or maybe cooking a dinner from scratch for your family, or being able to just take the time to sit and read a book with a hot cup of tea, or whatever it is that feeds you, you can find joy in. And so create those experiences. That's the way you respond to this, is to create the experiences that raise your vibration. Do some exercise, get your body moving, some yoga, some Tai Chi, some Qigong, whatever it is that can help you process. And every day, make sure you get some fresh air, whether you can actually go out and enjoy nature, or just go sit outside, or stay inside and open a window. Get some fresh air. That's really good for you. And that helps raise your vibration. What music are you listening to? Are you into art and creativity? Are you able to somehow engage in those things that help you? Thich Nhat Hanh said, hold on. I had this pulled up for us. Thich Nhat Hanh said, there are many ways to calm a negative energy without suppressing or fighting it. You recognize it, you smile to it, and you invite something nicer to come up and replace it. You read some inspiring words, you listen to a piece of beautiful music, you go somewhere in nature, or you do some walking meditation. And see, when we get into that state of mind, then you realize that actually certainty itself is an illusion, and uncertainty is actually present with everything. And so we cut through that delusion of certainty when we can become mindful. And that leads me into what I think is one of the strongest tools we can use right now to overcome the trauma mind is meditation. Having a form of sitting meditation or walking meditation, but having a way to connect with your breath and give your human mind a break and really letting everything settle. We have the Toledo Mindfulness Institute here in town, very fortunate. Rinzin Roshi and Doan Osho run the Buddhist Temple of Toledo, and they are just amazing teachers when it comes to specifically Zen meditation. And they have free workshops online going on. It's a wonderful way to like tap in and really get a practice that's solid for you. So tapping into that helps your brain actually, it's like erasing everything that's on a chalkboard so that you're able to start over. And so we get rid of all of those toxic thoughts and we kind of clear everything up so that we go back to that place where we can respond rather than react, and let that trauma mind, that reaction mind, calm down a little bit and allow that higher observer, that higher self to rise up and meet this challenge with thoughtfulness and mindfulness that helps us stay healthier. So when we get to that point, now we have a choice where we can use the lens of living sacred. Okay, our ancestors all ancestors in the indigenous forms that I've studied. I'm a Native American medicine woman, and I've studied Christianity, and I've studied Zen, Buddhism, and I get some training in Hindu, lots of, different traditions. But regardless, all those traditions have ancestors that bring great wisdom. And you have your ancestors in your life, regardless if they were healers or not. They went through so many huge challenges in history. And that ability to meet those challenges is passed down to you on a cellular vibrational level. When we really pull back and look at what's happening right now, remember that there are ancestors in history for thousands and thousands of years that have overcome huge things like this before. In fact, many of them greater. And we can tap into that strength that they fortified and passed on to us. We just haven't necessarily uncovered it yet. So you have in little ways, and now we want to uncover it in a bigger way. Nicholas Black Elk, one of my ancestors in the Sioux tradition, said, "When a vision comes from the thunder beings of the West, it comes with terror like a thunderstorm. But when the storm of vision has passed, the world is greener and happier. For wherever the truth of vision comes upon the world, it is like a rain. The world, you see, is happier after the terror of the storm." That's a piece of wisdom that I feel like really speaks to what's happening to us today. And recognizing and tapping in and seeking out those wisdoms. That's one wonderful way to use the internet or your books that are around you, is to tap into other people that deliver the positive messages of certainty that we need right now. The first piece, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers. And when they realize that at the center of the universe dwells Great Spirit, and that this center is really everywhere, it is within each of us. It was an ancestor of Nicholas Black Elk, and that has been passed down as well. And so this is a time where we're being brought into solitude. So we talked about our challenges, and we talked about the trauma mind and how our human brain is processing everything and why those challenges are there. And now we're talking about how we can sacredly meet those challenges. And so solitude is not a challenge, it's a gift. It's a precious gift. And it's different than loneliness. When we tap into the greater belonging instead of separateness, that can only be done in solitude, ironically. We don't tap into that as deeply, into that divine space of being part of the whole when we're around a lot of people. We can relate, we can connect, we can dance around the fire, we can do these things. But think about the sacredness that comes when you're in solitude and you actually meditate yourself into the place of being in full vibration with the earth, with all the creatures, with all the beings. That is a very sacred place to take yourself to. Another gift of looking at this from a sacred point of view. It doesn't always feel comfortable, but the idea of contemplating death is very powerful. And that is something that's kind of coming through with the current situation we're in. That's one of the biggest fear factors, right? Is that death could be a result of this. And so we're all having to, if we're brave enough to, consciously face this idea of death. The idea that people we know and love may die, the idea that we may die. And the simple matter is, that's the truth every single day. And the deeper truth is, we all will die. And so when we can, in solitude, tap into that place of contemplating death, our mortality, what comes next, am I ready for that? Have I done everything I want to do? It gets us really like this pressure cooker of what's most important. That's where it's like this positive pressure, where we really get to suss out our vision and really just kind of do that cleaning energetically of wiping away everything that's not in my highest good, everything that's not serving me in the way that connects me to my own divine creator, whatever word you use, whether that's divine love or God or Muhammad, whoever it is, whatever your great spirit is for you to connect to that. That's a really intense, beautiful gift that we don't always take that deep solitude place to tap into, unless we often, go on intense retreats, and some of us do. But this is a time calling us to that again. Our ancestors, and I get this also from my teacher, Dr. Goodall, talks about walk sacred, talk sacred. And we kind of wrap that all up and I say live sacred. But I want to break that live sacred up into walking sacred and talking sacred. So what we do with ourselves every day, including what we say outwardly and what we say inwardly, all greatly affects our mindfulness and our vibration. So are you being kind inwardly as well as outwardly? Are you being reverent inwardly as you are outwardly? When you are taking care of others, are you just trying to get it done? Or could you do it mindfully in a way that really steps into a place of making it a ritual, making it something sacred, almost ceremonial? And then the challenge in that, or actually it's not, the challenge is to remember to be mindful with it, but to raise up your effort. So this is what really gets us in a place of sacred ceremony, okay, is to really take any effort that you're making mindfully and dedicate that effort. So when we, in the Native American tradition, we make tobacco ties, and we burn tobacco ties as an offering, and there's always something with that, but we can do that mentally. So it's like every time I do something that takes effort, I do it and I offer that effort up for the sake of somebody else. And it burns it off and it lifts my vibration and it lifts other people's vibrations. And so this is one way that we can collectively help each other right now when we can't even necessarily touch each other and be with each other. So every act can raise the vibration of the entire universe. So when you do your laundry, offer up the ability to do your laundry at home for all the people that still would have to go to a laundromat during this pandemic to do their laundry. When you're brushing your teeth, offer it up for people around the world who may not even be able to brush their teeth. When you're cooking food, offer it up for all the people that might be hungry today. So make every act that you're doing a mindful act for the benefit of others. And that's a way of living sacred and creating ceremony. It's Palm Sunday. And this is just coming into me right now. So it's Palm Sunday. And with the Christ consciousness that we have and what we're talking about in being sacred, this is a holy week for those who are Christian. Um, it's comes up to Easter next Sunday, one of the holiest days of, well, the holiest day of the entire Christian calendar. And it's a week of reverent observances all week long. And so what we're talking about in being mindful goes along with that, reverent observances. As we approach Easter next Sunday, that's a time of rebirth. It's a time of new beginnings. It's supported by the energy of spring right now. And so this all supports us moving into this space of pulling away from the fear and the stress and really creating the sacred circle around you, recognizing that you're part of a much larger sacred circle of Angel's Landing, as well as a larger one of the community at whole, as well as everybody who's being mindful to lift each other up. Palm Sunday is an opportunity to reflect upon the final weeks of Jesus's life. If you're into the Christ consciousness and recognizing the path that Jesus took, he humbly entered Jerusalem today and was greeted with the palms. And he entered, I believe, he entered on a donkey. And that was a symbol, a great symbol of peace. Tapping back into some of my previous studies, I remember one of the things I learned that made an impression was the fact that when people would enter on a horse, it was this possibility of greatness. And he chose not to do that. And so there's this humbleness and solemn peace that comes with the beginning of Easter week. So if that is your journey, if that's part of your belief system, tap into that energy, because as a collective in the Christian world right now, that's very powerful. And something that will help raise you into this place that we're talking about. So the eagle's eye view, pulling back a little bit further from the sacred every day of how we practice into kind of the eagle's eye view. Part of my medicine, as named Eagle Cloud, is being able to pull away and be shown, some greater views. Sometimes it's cloudy and I have to work through that. So this is where the bigger gifts are. We have the opportunity to understand a large part of the population right now that is different than us. Okay, this is really important. This is about all of us getting together and understanding how we can be so different and yet still be in the same circle together. So people who suffer domestic abuse, people who suffer addiction, invisible diseases, invisible disabilities, human trafficking victims, brain injuries, veterans, people who have lost tremendous, who have been traumatized by death, by losing somebody close to them. This is a chance for us to, in our minds, align with those people and recognize if you've been fortunate and blessed enough, if you're the 4 out of 10 who isn't suffering a trauma, a great trauma from one of these, you've been blessed enough, then what you're experiencing now in the uncertainty and the fear and the trauma mind helps you understand what those populations of people that I'm talking about live with every day. They have to be flexible. They have to be adaptable. They aren't able to find certainty and comfort and peace very often. They live with a tumultuous existence going on in their mind all the time. And most likely that's a lot of you. It's me. I have a lot of trauma that I've worked through. And so what's happening around us is triggering a lot of that. It'll trigger ours that's already there. And for those of you who maybe aren't being triggered that way, it helps you align with understanding the amount of pain and wounding and suffering there is in the world. And this becomes really important to us being able to step into that place once again of being able to offer up on behalf of those who are suffering, on behalf of those who are in pain, on behalf of those who are just being crushed by the challenges that our current world situation is presenting. And so it becomes even more important where we can align with our brothers and sisters in the world, understand them better, and really find an open, warm heart place for everybody. Dr. Goodall and I talked for a little while on Friday preparing for today, and she said that astrologically, it is just designed astrologically right now to open up all of our shadows to us. This whole situation is going to open up the biggest challenges within ourselves, anything that's lingering in the shadows. And that's really hard to deal with, but everything we're talking about is how we deal with it. And we have the opportunity to heal things coming up from the shadows. This is a big shift. It falls in line with the Mayan predictions of the sixth sun. Falls in line with the predictions of many of the Native American ancestors that predicted, Black Elk being one of them, which is why I was pulling some of his quotes for today. Humanity is recalibrating. We're recalibrating as a species with each other. We're recalibrating with Mother Earth. And we're recalibrating with patriarchal power and how those powers are going to shift. And so what's happening right now, if you take no other peace of mind, know that it is actually an extremely important shift going on. And you can help move through that shift by helping envision what it was from the world before COVID-19 that's worth keeping and what's not worth keeping. And help in that visioning when you have meditation, if you can envision what the world is like for you. What is it that you need to move away from that was in your life before? And what is it that you are really excited to re-engage with and get back? You have a greater love of it all now than you did before. And we still have many weeks to go. So there'll be more evolution, more growing, a deeper seeding of all this going on. And that is just a great gift to us right now. So with this time of awakening, use it if you can to help the greater good raise its vibration as we bring in what the new shift is going to bring. To participate in the shift, it's very important that you have introspection, that you take that time to meditate, that you have introspection. It's also important that you rest, because energetically this takes a lot from us. So resting, meditating, having just time to stare out the window and daydream and just be with your mind, letting it go. So you have the balance of being in a very, meditative state that can be very disciplined for your mind. And then you have the opposite. You kind of daydream and let it play on the playground for a while. That's important. And constantly bringing yourself back to your divine connection so that everything is kept in a very sacred manner. It's easier to do that right now without as much noise on the outside if you control that. You have a front row seat. So keep that in perspective. You have a front row seat in history. When we pull way, way back and we look at thousands of years or even hundreds of years, and we see what shift is happening for our future generations, realize that you're sitting right here. You get to see this happen. If you're older, just think about where in your lifespan you have seen change. If you're younger, recognize that your future generations of grandchildren will be interviewing you and asking you, what was it like at 9/11? What was it like for the COVID pandemic? So you have this front row seat of recognizing what's happening. You don't have to necessarily get in the swirl of it to observe it and be with it. Change is usually uncomfortable, especially when we don't understand it. But when we can understand it like this, then we can honor it in a different, more sacred way. That brings us back to, for those of you that were at my last talk at Angel's Landing, that mud and the lotus. Okay, so the trust and the faith piece comes in right here. So this is the mud, right? If Goodall said, you know, astrologically, we're supposed to be challenged by all of our shadows. That's everything in the mud. So we've got all of this, you know, all we can see is the mud. But this is when we fertilize the introspection, the trust, the faith, everything that we do on the inside is what will be what pushes up and out for the lotus to come. Okay, so this is the work. Now is the work. And you've been given this beautiful box of your home to do that work. Now, if you're on the front lines, then this work is being done differently for you. Okay, your work is being mindful in what you're doing so that you don't get hurt, so that you stay safe. And your work itself, everything that would be dedicated to other people, is the fact that you're dedicating yourself to other people. I don't care if you're changing trash bins somewhere or you are a doctor treating patients. If you're the nurse holding the hand of somebody dying and having their family on the cell phone with them, that is already your practice being offered up for everybody. They are tirelessly, those that have to be out there right now, tirelessly expending everything they have toward this vision and shift, whether they're aware of it or not. So for those of us at home, we can support them by raising up our own vibration. Susanna Arhande Roy, who's an Indian author, she wrote the novel The God of Small Things, said, historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our adversaries, our data banks, our dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. So with that thought, it's time for us to go into a meditation, okay? I want everybody to stretch for a minute. If you need to stand up, but get yourself in a place where you're going to be able to sit comfortably for 5-6 minutes here, okay? And I'm going to get us ready. Okay. If you're able to just sit somewhere comfortably, get your feet on the ground, close your eyes, go within. Feel your body. Wiggle your toes. Roll your ankles a little. Bounce your knees for a second. And then just let your legs settle. You feel your butt in the chair. Feel yourself planted, stable, balanced where you're sitting. Now draw your awareness from your tailbone. Feel your tailbone there. Draw it up through your spine. Drawing that up, bringing the energy rising through your spine, through your neck, up your head and through your crown chakra. And feel yourself just drawn by a string there, holding you up. And with that string holding you up, drop your shoulders, relax your arms and your lap. Bring your awareness to your third eye, awakening it to your own inner wisdom, awakening your pineal gland just behind it, dropping down into your throat, your heart, and your belly. And just feel your breath in and out. Let your breath breathe you naturally, without effort. And bring all of your attention very gently to your heart chakra. Let it soften and open. Let the fear melt away. And feel it connect. I'm energetically connecting all the heartbeats of everybody listening, even those who will be listening in the future, and those who have been connected to us in the past. All one heartbeat. Take a moment, if you can, with me to do one Om. Feel how that heart space feels a little differently now. In that space, as you exhale, release your fear. Release your anger, your struggle. If that's challenging for you, then take your attention up into your mind, because that's where that might be trapped. And as you breathe up and in, send your breath into your brain, into that third eye, into your seventh chakra. Send your breath there, and with your exhales, allow your breath to release the fear, the anxiety, and the mental struggle. You could even visualize a dial, like you're dialing down your nervous system response with your breathing. With every breath, just turning that all the way down until it clicks off, or at least until it's down to 1. Now with one more deep breath, exhale out the rest of all that fear and struggle that you need to let go of. Let go of everything that serves in serving your highest good. With your next breath in, inviting in trust, inviting in faith, Feeling the divine envelop you with every breath inward. Breathing in wisdom. Breathing in compassion for yourself and for others. Inviting in your ancestral wisdom, all that you have that can serve your highest good now. May it awaken at the cellular level, your courage, your strength, your awareness, your peace. Take those thoughts of fear, turn that dial from fear into learning, and from learning into growth. And as you breathe, bring in these thoughts for yourself. I no longer need to look solely to our political or religious leaders for guidance. I also need to look inward into my authentic self, to the wise person I am becoming. I invite in patience, the rooted belief that whatever situation or circumstance is being presented to me in the present moment is teaching and guiding me to the right path of my true purpose. I move forward in this moment with divine purpose and practice, living in a sacred manner to the best of my ability. I send blessings to all beings and experiences in my life with a loving and grateful heart. As we breathe in, bring the mindfulness to the circle. Breathing in for you, breathing in for others, breathing in together. Aligned with the breath of the earth, aligned with the breath of the divine. And with this, exhale. I close the circle and release with great gratitude all the wisdom and knowledge that was channeled for us today for our highest good. I release the guardians and guides and ancestors that are here and invite any of them to stay if it's in the highest good of any individual listening to this now and in the future. And the circle will continue throughout space and time as an effort of protection. And we offer the merit of our meditation to everybody that's on the front line, to any infected patients, to the ill, to the lonely, to the overwhelmed, to all those trapped in unsafe situations right now, to our leaders, to our enemies, to our neighbors and loved ones, and all those who have died. And in an effort to offer protection, my closing prayer will be an additional smudging for everybody. Okay. Close your eyes and open your hands. May your hands be cleansed that they create beautiful things. May your feet be cleansed that they may take you where you most need to be. May your heart be cleansed that you might hear its message clearly. May your throat be cleansed that you might speak rightly when words are needed. May your eyes be cleansed that you might see the signs and wonders of this world. May this person and space connected to this blessing be washed clean by the smoke of this fragrant sage. And may the same smoke carry each of our prayers all the way to the heavens and be one with the divine love abiding all. Aho. Thank you all so much.